Hello beer lovers! Today on The Lazy Homebrewer, we're talking about Scottish ales. Welcome back to the Beer Hut, where today's topic is Scottish ales. I'm going to talk a little bit about the style and the history, and then I'm going to do a tasting of some of the currently available commercially produced Scottish ales that are on the market. I'm going to see if I can get some inspiration for making my own extract recipe, and then we're going to come back and check it out and see how it turned out. So let's get started.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
You may notice that I sound a little different today.
Check, 1, 2, check.
That's because after doing a half a dozen videos, I figured out that my microphone wasn't working properly.
Oh my God.
But that's unimportant now. What's important is that you and I are here together talking about beer. And speaking of beer, how about those crazy Scots? They've been in the beer game a very long time. Archaeologists have found evidence of brewing from more than 5,000 years ago. But the real history of Scottish brewing is maybe 300 or 400 years old. That's when they started making beers that we would recognize. The weather in Scotland is ideal for growing malting barley. Hops, a little less so. Too cold, too far north. The closest place to reliably get hops was southern England. So brewers experimented with other things. They tried spruce tips, holly, heather, different things that they thought would bitter their beer and give it a good flavor. But mostly nothing could substitute for hops. So instead, they just made very malt forward, low hop beers. And that's pretty much what a Scottish ale is. There are no style differences between different Scottish ales. It's really just more a matter of strength. And that's how they've always been classified. The Scots used what was called the shilling system, which was the price per barrel based on the strength of the beer inside. Brewers would make multiple runs on their grain to get different strength beers. A first run would give you maybe 120 shilling Wee Heavy. A second run would give you a 60 shilling light. Some brewers would even make a third run on their grain, which would give you a very weak, what would they call, a penny beer, which would be a very popular item because it was safer than most of the municipal water. And really, they've changed very little in the last 300 years. But that's enough talk. Let's go do some tastings. Next to me are the beers for today's tasting for commercially produced Scottish ales. Our first one is the Four Peaks Kilt Lifter. Four Peaks is in Tempe, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. And they pride themselves on making their beers true to style. So let's see how they did. Nice medium amber color. Dry malty smell. And dry malty flavor. Good combination of different malts. Very clean. Really very little hop in there. Just enough to make it a balanced beer. Excellent. Crisp. That's definitely an easy drinking beer. Strong contender for today's recipe. I think I might want to go a little harder than that, but that's a very nice beer. Okay. Our next beer is the Belhaven Scottish Ale. Belhaven is a Scottish brewery. They have been right and smack dab in the middle of prime barley growing country for the last 300 years. I absolutely trust them to make what they say that they are making. But let's have a look. Oh, and probably important to note, I accidentally grabbed the nitro can. So this is going to be a little different than the regular CO2 beer, but not too much. So let's check it out. Again, a nice medium amber color. Very light on the nose. The nitro makes that a little bit crazy. It is a little bit different. But the malt does come through. It's a beautiful beer. I can tell that there is an assortment of light and medium malts in there. That is really special. Definitely a strong contender for today's recipe. I will say though, having had both of these now, the folks at Four Peaks did a pretty good job. That is pretty close to what I've got here as well. Okay, those were our two lights. Now we're going to try a couple of wee heavies. The first is going to be the Belhaven Wee Heavy. This is their 90 shilling Wee Heavy. Let's give that a look. Darker color, definitely, almost mahogany. Can smell a little bit more dark malt. More body. Very similar flavor, a little bit darker but not much. A little bit more on the sweet side. This is 2% heavier than their other beer, and they do say that they use cane sugar to get it there. I'm not sure how much more they added to their grain bill, or if it's just all sugar. It does have a little more dark malt. Beautiful caramely flavor. That is excellent. If you like malty beers, this is outstanding. Oh, goodness. Okay. This brings us to our fourth and final taster today. The Founder's Dirty Bastard. Founders out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The Dirty Bastard is the beer that really put them on the map. They had been struggling. They made this beer and it was popular, and they've been on the up ever since. So let's check that one out. This is their take on a Wee Heavy. Definitely darker color, closer to what we saw from the Belhaven 90. A little bit of malt smell, pretty light. Can taste a little more of the dark grain, a little heavier. That is an excellent beer. There might be more dark malt in there than I traditionally think of for a Scottish ale, but still excellent. Whew, wow. Well, there were only 4 tasters today, but it's given me a lot to think about. We have 2 light, 2 wee heavy, 2 new world, 2 old world. I'm gonna go away and think about that for a few minutes. I'll come back at you with my notes and a recipe. Stick around. So what can I take away from today's tasting? Well, Scottish ales are all about the malt. All 4 of the beers that I tried today had a strong malt flavor with just enough hops to hold it all together. And that's what I'm trying to get today. The lights were a little light, the heavies were a little heavy, so I'm gonna try to shoot for somewhere in between what we had today. I'm not gonna take you through brew day with me. That's in another episode, but here's the recipe that I'm gonna use. So here it is, my take on a Scottish Wee Heavy. Let's check it out. Deep ruby color. Light malt on the nose. Full body. Biscuit, caramel, delicious. This turned out exactly the way I wanted it to. I started out with a strong backbone of Maris Otter malt, and then I threw some Golden Promise in with the steeping grains. Golden Promise is the Scottish equivalent of Maris Otter, and since I'm an extract brewer, I couldn't use all Golden Promise. If I was doing this as a full mash, I would probably use just about entirely Golden Promise. And before you try to tell me that you can't steep base grains, I'm not looking to get fermentable sugars out of it, just a little flavor and a little color. I added into that a little Special B, a little chocolate, just enough traditional English hops to pull the whole thing together. This turned out great. If you have never had a Scottish ale, as I say, there are a lot of them out there on the market. Some of you may already be drinking and not be aware that that's the style. Well, that's about it from the Beer Hut. Until next time, this is the Lazy Homebrewer saying, brew what you like and like what you brew.